She built her empire on my breath, but for 10 years, no one knew I existed. Until one line, scribbled in pencil, cracked her entire world open. My name is Julian Cross, and this is the story of how I was erased and how I came back to reclaim everything she stole. My name is Julia Cross. 10 years ago, the world recognized me as the girl with the blueprint for healing cities. I was 26, fresh out of Cornell's graduate architecture program and co-founder of Cross and Dean, a boutique design business. Clarissa and I had started with nothing but caffeine, late nights, and shared frustration at studio comments. My notion was our first significant concept, a self-regulating living environment that captured rain, processed gray water, used passive solar architecture, and even grew organically along the southern exposure. We called it the breathing block. Clarissa named it ours. Then she softly claimed it. When I realized that she had submitted our project to the Luxembourg Eco Futures exhibition under her own name, I confronted her. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Your name does not sell. Mine does. It's still your idea, Jules. You will be given credit at the firm." But when the prize arrived, when they flew her to Europe, and I received a brief email that read, "We're streamlining branding," I realized I wasn't being erased. Instead, they were substituting me. It got worse. I was removed from pitching. I was excluded from ATT meetings. My access to the shared Google Drive disappeared. I was assigned junior-level internship duties and a wellness coach to assist me with my emotional imbalance. 2 months later, Clarissa filed for a restraining order. I said I'd threatened her with hacking into our new customers' info and damaging her reputation. The board agreed with her father, who serves on the town council. Ty grabbed my elbow. Owen, one of our interns, looked at me with sympathy, and I felt terrible. That day, they did not simply terminate my employment. They erased me. No job, there are no references. No, terminate my employment. My family, who were always concerned about my idealistic career path, suggested I get treatment, that I was burned out. My brother questioned whether I had been self-medicating. I moved to Baltimore because it was cheaper. I obtained a job at Brick and Earth, a home improvement warehouse where no one worried about my past. I dyed my hair dark, took out my contacts, and wore flannel shirts and faded jeans. I used a phony surname on paperwork, Julianne Cole. I wanted to avoid detection, but I kept seeing her name, Clarissa Dean. Dwell magazine was the publisher of this article, Forbes 30 Under 30, Architect of the Year, keynote speaker. She served as the Urban Sustainability Advisor for the United Nations. The woman's claim that she grew up in the foster system and built everything for herself was likewise incorrect. We grew up in the same suburb. Her folks weren't poor, they were just cold. But the world loved her story. They never inquired where she got her ideas. Until Thursday. He walked in wearing a waterproof jacket that smelled faintly of damp leaves and expensive leather, probably in their early 30s. His name tag said, Braden Carmichael, Procurement Director. He unrolled patterns on the counter and inquired about wholesale prices for insulated cork panels. "This one's for a site near Husafell, Iceland," he explained. "We need something breathable but with low thermal conductivity." I was barely paying attention when I viewed the renderings. The atrium, thaw the drainage grid, the curving skylights have changeable louvers based on data. I created it 10 years ago as part of my MFA thesis. My vision, my notes. On page 7, I found a note scribbled in faded pencil that was almost erased. "Breathe with the mountain, JC." I looked at it for so long that Braden cleared his throat. "Are you okay?" "I've seen this design before," I admitted softly. He smiled. "It's Clarissa Dean. She's brilliant, right?" My breath caught. The hum from the fluorescent lights above us was deafening. "I used to know her," I explained. "She's spearheading the Glacier Haven project," I was told. "It is meant to revolutionize how we build in sensitive environments." She claimed to have spent years developing the breathing infrastructure concept. I did not respond. That night, I went home and fished through the old fireproof box under my bed, which I hadn't opened in 8 years. A dish towel encased the napkin inside. The original. Breathe with the Mountain. JC. Clarissa hadn't even mentioned anything. She simply stole the sketch and traced my initials. I didn't merely build a global corporation based solely on my strength. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table as the sun rose, holding a napkin in one hand and a glass of scotch in the other. I wasn't angry. I was cold and clear. For the first time in 10 years, I understood the inevitable course of events. Clarissa Dean had taken everything from me, but I was still alive, breathing. This time, she'd remember my name. I waited 3 days before taking any concrete action. I kept going to work, selling tile and wood laminate to couples redoing their bathrooms while smiling as if I wasn't crying within. But every night, I pulled out the napkin and traced my handwriting as if it were a lost relic from a previous life, which, in a way, it was. I knew I needed assistance, but not from lawyers, not yet. I needed someone who remembered. So I sought Owen. He had previously served as our intern. Owen, a shy MIT student, had ink-stained fingers and a nervous smile. He currently works as a senior project lead for an architecture firm in Washington, D.C., according to LinkedIn. I messaged him anonymously and asked to meet for coffee to discuss an old collaboration. He responded within an hour. We met in a cafe outside Laurel, midway between Baltimore and Washington, D.C. He approached with caution, but his expression softened as soon as I removed my sunglasses. "Julianne?" He whispered something. "Jesus, I assumed you had left the country." "Almost," I responded. Then I remembered that I still have a name, and somebody else is cashing in. Owen appeared to be stunned. I put the napkin on the table between us. "You remember this?" He drew closer. His eyes became wider. "You composed this on the night of the Parsons Fellowship deadline. We were pulling all-nighters." "You remember." "I remember everything," he answered quietly. "But they said you had a breakdown. Clarissa stated that you attempted to destroy the firm's database, that you were threatening her." I laughed sharply, bitterly. "You think I would sabotage my own work?" "I didn't know what to believe," he said, "and then you disappeared." I took out a folder from my tote bag, including copies of my degree thesis, early designs, and images of the original prototype made of foam core and recyclable plastic. I'd placed them in a file amid insulation samples in my closet. Owen scanned through the pages in quiet. He took a trembling breath as he reached the signature page of my thesis, which had the title, Breathing Architecture, A Living Urban Skin, by Julianne A. Cross, 2013. "This is Clarissa's brand now," he muttered. "She did not only take your ideas, she founded an empire on them." "Help me," I said. I'm not asking you to testify just yet. Please assist me in tracing the materials she utilized, what emerged from our old files. We can verify that I touched first." Owen paused. "You know her lawyers will bury you." "I'm not going to court," I replied. "Not yet. First, I want the truth. The paper does not lie. You can only find the truth if you know where to look." He gave a slow nod. "I'll do what I can." 2 weeks later, Owen emailed me a Dropbox folder called JC Originals for Your Eyes Only. It was absolutely everything. Archived sketches Clarissa had neglected to scrub. I sent draft emails with attachment names that matched the final designs years later. Technical specifications, my specifications, were copied and pasted into her investor presentation slides. A video was the one file that broke me. A screen recording of me presenting at an internal meeting 6 months before I left. In the movie, I animatedly explained how thermal mass may be achieved by combining basalt-rich concrete with hempcrete composites. Clarissa sat peacefully beside me, her arms folded. 2 years later, she delivered an almost identical lecture at TEDx Paris. Identical gestures? She used the exact same phrases and gestures. Even my concluding statement remains unchanged. Buildings need to breathe, just like we do. I rewatched it 5 times. I don't know why. Perhaps I needed to reassure myself that I wasn't insane. I hadn't imagined any of it. Owen texted me the next day. I can have more. I maintain access to their internal system via an unrevoked subcontractor link. He put his employment in danger, maybe more. I instructed him to halt. He hadn't. Meanwhile, I kept returning to Brick and Earth as if nothing had changed. But something had. Braden returned to the store that Friday. He requested quotations for the entire order. "The Iceland project's been greenlit," stated the official. "She leaves next month. We've booked a photo shoot with Archidesign Weekly." I pretended to smile and began writing down figures. "You're not really a clerk, are you?" he asked after a pause. I stopped moving. "What makes you say that?" "You were able to recall the R value of thermally treated cork from memory. You identified fiber-based insulation types by touch. That is not typical." I gave him a look. I really looked. Braden's sharp cheekbones, lakewater eyes, and the posture of a man who had to prove himself in front of older, wealthier men characterized him. "I used to be someone else," I admitted, gently. "But she." I moved a printed page across the counter. I once again typed my thesis title. My name is in strong letters. Below that are side-by-side screenshots of Clarissa's most recent work. He was staring at them. "That's the same—" "Exactly," I replied. "She was not the one who designed it. I did. I designed it 10 years ago." Braden appeared to be surprised. "You're telling me Clarissa Dean's entire platform is built on my lungs?" He remained silent for quite some time. He exhaled. "Do you want help?" he finally inquired. I realized I might not need to fight this war alone. For years, I assumed Clarissa's greasest weapon was her charm, but I was mistaken. Her most powerful weapon was doubt, which she instilled in every room she entered with precisely the right combination of polished wit, vulnerability, and well-timed pauses. She did not lie outright. She redirected. She didn't actually silence me. She reframed me. Now the frame was cracking. Owen's files kept rolling in, misdated architectural renderings, duplicated file paths, and metadata. Clarissa had not expected anyone to check. And Braden? He proved to be more than just useful. He had contacts, engineers who had worked for Clarissa's firm, and subcontractors who were dissatisfied with the increasingly chaotic course of her latest projects. "She can't explain her own work," Braden stated one night as we looked through shared files about takeout. "That's why she changes lead designers so frequently. If someone stays too long, they will figure it out." This made sense. Vanessa had done the same thing with fashion: rotate, isolate, and dominate. Clarissa's kingdom, like my sister's, was a palace of mirrors, gleaming, deceitful, and hollow within. The turning point arrived unexpectedly in the form of an email. Owen forwarded it without a topic line. It was sent from Clarissa's executive assistant to their public relations firm. The message's body read as follows: "Delete any interviews mentioning co-founders or initial collaborators. Julianne Cross is not to be mentioned in any press. When asked, she said she was a graduate school classmate with no formal role." Is the file attached? A transcript of Clarissa's 2015 podcast interview in which she acknowledged me briefly. She spoke of a talented peer who had inspired some early thoughts. That episode has since been taken down, scrubbed from Spotify, Apple, and the hosting website. They were changing history, again. But now I had an eraser. That night, I acted recklessly. I made a burner Instagram account at breathingwithjc. No photograph. There is no bio. Only one post. It was a scanned page from my thesis, captioned Vanished Vision, Part 1. No names, there are no accusations, only a murmur in the void. The post had 800 views in 6 hours. Someone had sent it to Owen the next morning. By lunchtime, it had spread to a tiny but dedicated architecture Reddit thread where industry interns shared horror stories and gossip. The comments section exploded with theories, with the majority presuming it was a stunt. But some people recognized the design. Someone even posted a screenshot of Clarissa's 10X stage and compared the curvature of the dome to my original models. The talk had started. Clarissa noticed. The next evening, Braden texted me a snapshot from the firm's internal Slack thread. Clarissa herself issued a red flag alert. Whoever is disclosing photographs of obsolete student work related to defunct theses should remember their NDA commitments. Legal will handle this. Do not engage. I grinned for the first time in several months. She was nervous. That night, Owen messaged again. She is moving the Iceland deadline ahead, wants to schedule a photo session next week to beat whatever is trending online. But she doesn't even have final permits yet. It doesn't matter. She's attempting to dominate the story. That's what she always does. Control the narrative. That had been the entire playbook from the start. Call me unstable, isolate me from witnesses, discredit my voice, then retell the story with her as the lead character. However, I've discovered that once stories begin to leak, they are difficult to contain, especially when someone is inside the walls. Braden consented to wear the wire, not for legal reasons, not yet. However, it is necessary to record her words, her tone, her intent. He had been promoted to project liaison and was now attending weekly review sessions with Clarissa directly. The first recording almost broke me. She was in the middle of a rant while speaking with the design team. You people keep asking for references and citations as if this were an academic symposium. This is about execution, not who thought of what first. Julianne never had the courage to build what I did. She created beautiful dreams. I created a legacy. Someone in the room questioned, "Who's Julianne?" She laughed. Exactly. That clip became the second post on @breathingwithjc. This time, I captioned it. The legacy was based on lies. The dreamer remembers. The post received 10,000 views in 24 hours. Dwell magazine tracked the story. So did Archnecht. Then a blogger from Greenform, a digital newspaper focused on sustainable design principles, privately messaged the account. Do you want to relate your story? Off the record first. I didn't respond, not yet. I wasn't prepared to convey the narrative. I wanted Clarissa to walk in first, so I planted bait. A public Dropbox folder containing files from my graduate school days. Category: Old Concepts, Do Not Share. They weren't the most damaging, but enough to pique interest. Each one is faintly watermarked with my initials, JAC. Within 48 hours, those files appeared, rebranded, in Clarissa's exclusive preview presentations for the Iceland project. Braden sent me the deck in disbelief. She's getting sloppy. No, she's becoming desperate. That night, I met Owen and Braden on the rooftop of a co-working facility near Camden. Cold air, warm coffee, and one question between us. "Are you ready?" Owen inquired. I considered that. I'd been living in silence for a decade, regarding the tile floors, bogus name, and layers of self-erasure. And then I replied, no, but I'm going anyway. Even if I wasn't prepared, she certainly wasn't either. Clarissa appeared on Modern Minds in Design, a podcast, the night before the Iceland launch. She spoke slowly and methodically, with the poise of someone who had rehearsed their origin story 100 times. "I've always believed architecture should whisper, not shout," she told us. My early thoughts, which eventually became the Breathing Infrastructure series, were inspired by solitude. Long hikes in the woods in upstate New York and moments of silence during graduate school cannot be taught. I sat in my little apartment with Owen and Braden beside me, the audio crackling from my laptop speakers. We listened in quiet. Each phrase pierced me deeply. When she paused, the host said cordially, "How would you respond to internet critics who suggest that your designs are not entirely original? I'm not sure if your designs are entirely original." Carlissa laughed softly, humbly, and with practice. Inspiration is a collective experience. Ideas change and evolve. Of course, many people have influenced me, particularly my peers from school. But eventually, it comes down to who makes the dream a reality. That's where vision turns into legacy. Jesus, Owen mumbled before closing his eyes. She actually believes it. But that was not a delusion. It was a craft. Clarissa had spent a decade stealing and rewriting. I am not being fully erased. She was merely transforming me into a minor detail she could conceal behind praise. That was when I made my decision. I would speak. No accounts are anonymous. There are no hidden files. There will be no more whispering in the corners. I contacted Greenform. Neha Patel, the editor, exuded a quiet but piercing energy, as if she'd seen too many ND days and whisper campaigns to recognize the telltale marks of a skillfully hidden reality. We met in a tea shop in Brooklyn, hidden behind a bookshop. I had brought everything. I brought the original napkin. The video clips were also brought along. The thesis statement is the focal point of the study. Owen's digital tracing map is also included. Braden's sound. I have included photographs of my design notebooks for your reference. Timeline breakdowns. The history of Clarissa's plagiarism, broken down by year, is presented. After I finished speaking, Neha remained silent for a while. She just sat, her hands folded in front of her chin. Then she inquired, "Do you desire revenge, or do you want your name returned?" I answered without hesitation. I want to know the truth in front of her, and I want my name removed from her work and placed back on mine. Neha gave a tiny smile. We can do that. We plan to release the story an hour prior to the Iceland Reveal webcast. Meanwhile, Braden made his own discovery, which was much more personal. He discovered a financial document buried away in an internal finance report, Clarissa's original seed grant to Cross and Dean in 2014. It listed the initial angel investor. Name is Margaret A. Cross. My mother. I hadn't spoken to her for 6 years. It's been 6 years since she's called, urging Julianne to stop causing us embarrassment. Clarissa thinks you are ill. That night, I called her. She didn't reply. However, the next morning, I received an SMS. If this message is about the article, we should talk. We met in a bakery near her Connecticut home. Her hair had turned grayer than I remembered, but her posture remained the same, graceful, cautious, and always holding something back. "Why did you fund her?" I inquired. She groaned and slowly stirred her drink. "Because she asked, and because you won't. I didn't know you had money to give." She raised her eyes to see me. "You never asked." We didn't speak for a long time. "I thought she believed in me," I confessed ultimately. "And you believed her." "I believed she could survive in that world," she said. "You were always so sensitive." She was such a stubborn person. "I didn't expect you to last." I took a powerful gulp. "You did not want me to win. You wanted me to go quietly." She did not dispute it. "I was wrong," she confessed finally. "This is about Clarissa, about you." It wasn't an apology, but that was something. I rose. "You might want to stay tuned for tomorrow's live stream." When I returned to my apartment, Neha had already sent the final draft. The title was bold, Unapologetic. The Woman Behind the Air, Julianne Pross and the Theft of Breathing Architecture. The subheadline was even sharper. A unique look at plagiarism, professional erasure, and what it takes to recover your voice when the industry's golden child grows rich off your quiet. I read it 5 times. Then I forwarded it to Clarissa. There is no message. There is no threat. The message is just a link. She witnessed it. 5 minutes later, I received a call from a number I hadn't seen since the day security escorted me out of my own office. It was her. "Julianne," she announced. Her voice remained steady but scratchy. "What do you want?" I glanced out the window as the city below lit up. "I want you to feel exactly what I felt." I hang up. The design community held its breath on the morning of the Iceland livestream. Clarissa Dean was due to launch the Glacier Haven project, her magnum opus, live from Reykjavik. The press named it the future of sustainable architecture. She stood alone on the stage, dressed in a cut, slate-gray suit, flanked by steel beams and glass panels curved in the same pattern I'd fashioned from foam core in a dorm room. Cameras were rolling. The drones hummed. Her voice rang out as calm, confident, and entirely in control. It wasn't always like this. Greenform dropped the article exactly 47 minutes before her broadcast began. The headline sparked immediate interest. It went viral on X, previously Twitter, Instagram, and Reddit before she could speak. The live chat became overrun in less than 10 minutes. Hashtag Justice for Julianne. Is that even her design? At Breathing with JC was telling the truth. Where's Julianne Cross? Clarissa hesitated in the middle of her statement. The confidence faltered. For the first time in years, the public was hearing my voice instead of hers. Neha had performed her duties flawlessly. The detailed exposé included evidence, audio clips, screenshots from the archives, and eyewitness testimonies. Owen's maps, Braden's recording, the original funding documentation from my mother is also included. Marcus, the old co-founder who had previously ghosted me, had also filed a statement. And what about Clarissa? Clarissa had made the fatal mistake of doubling down. She denied the charges in the air. She grinned and told the cameras. We live in a time when anonymous voices try to dismantle years of work for their 15 minutes of fame. It was an unfortunate choice of words. My anonymity had vanished. Within an hour, I had gone live on my platform. Neha had built up a basic video for me. There are no filters, there were no edits. Just myself, seated in a small room with blueprints spread behind me like ghost witnesses. I looked at the lens and said, "My name is Julianne Cross, and the designs that Clarissa Dean made her name on were mine." Then I recounted the story. Everything. The firm. The thesis statement is presented. The napkin. The theft happened. The collapse occurred. There's silence. The present is the fight. There's no wrath, no drama. There is only the unwavering, verified truth. It was not merely a confession. It was the resurrection. And the entire world listened. That evening, Dwell magazine expressed worry. By midnight, Archidesign Weekly removed Clarissa's impending cover story and replaced it with a placeholder. Developing. Ethical breach allegations at Dean Concepts. The most unexpected blow came from her firm. Braden, who had spent months navigating the maze from the inside, provided me a screenshot of an emergency board email. Subject line: Clarissa Dean's leadership, immediate review requested. The message was signed by 7 senior project leaders. Within 72 hours, she had been placed on indefinite leave. By the end of the week, she had lost access to internal systems, sponsors backed out. An investigation into the origins of the design has put the Iceland project on hold. What about me? I didn't have a celebration. I didn't do any dancing. I returned to brick and earth for my last shift. Rosa, the assistant manager, hugged me and said, "We always knew you were too sharp for this place." I erupted into laughter. For the first time in months, I actually laughed. By the following week, I was back in New York. But I'm not hiding. I gave my first interview to Greenform in person, then another to the New York Times. Offers began to pour in, speaking engagements, partnership proposals, and even a teaching fellowship at Cornell. I declined most of them. I did not seek vengeance. I want legacy, on my terms. So I began something fresh. This is not a firm. This is not a brand. Echo Root is a studio. It is a location where credit is never erased. Innovation and humility coexisted. No one ever had to battle to have their name remembered. Owen joined me as co-director. Braden left his firm to serve as a project liaison. Even my mother gave seed money quietly, this time without conditions. Clarissa? She vanished from public view. Some believe she is writing a book. Others believe she's preparing a comeback. Perhaps she will resurface one day under a new brand with a fresh twist. Even if she does, the aftermath of what happened will haunt her. She'll never be able to silence it again. What about me? The Venice Biennale will showcase my art next spring. They requested that I title my collection. I referred to it as The Architect You Erased. Epilogue. 1 month after the studio opened, I received a small box in the mail. There are no return addresses. Inside, I found the original napkin. Clarissa had previously duplicated it, but this time she framed it in glass. There's no note, just a card that reads, "The mountain remembers who whispered first." I displayed it in my office. The words are illuminated by the afternoon sun.